Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Laura Owens.
And I'm Jan Black. Are you struggling to find meaning and purpose in your life? Could you use some help? If so, you'll want to hear what our guest on this episode, Matthew Emerzian, has to say.
Matthew is the founder and CEO of Every Monday Matters, a not-for-profit organization committed to helping people and organizations understand how much and why they matter. He's also the author of the new book, You Matter, Learning to Love Who You Really Are. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to talk with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Your own incredible story inspired You Matter. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, but I don't know that it's so, atypical. That's for sure. I think that I went to college, I went to grad school. I checked on the boxes I thought I was supposed to check, and life was just supposed to kind of roll out in front of me. And I ended up getting into the music industry after grad school, and I got a job, started in artist management, and then I got a job working for Robert Kardashian, and he owned a music marketing company. I was a senior vice president, and I was just kind of living this life of, it was fast-paced. It was, I was working in the biz, and it was, working all day during the day, celebrities all over the place, and dinners at night, parties after dinners, after parties, and next thing you knew it, I found myself on this, slippery slope of, to be successful, as I defined it back then, was make as much money as you can, be on all the red carpets, own nice things, stay single and have fun. And it was just all of that kind of entourage television show life. And on a Monday morning, when I went to getting ready to go to work, I thought I was having a heart attack, but it turned out to be a very severe panic attack, which turned into chronic anxiety and depression. And from that Monday forward, my life would never be the same again.
How so? Tell us what that journey was about from that Monday morning on.
Well, it's a long journey. I tell people that I think for most of my life, if you put like joy or happiness, on the far left side of the scale, and you put like outright despair on the other side of the scale, I lived my life on the 70% part of that scale that wasn't near the bad part. Yeah, yes, I've had bad days. I've lost family members, and I've had my heart broken, and I've had to put my pets to sleep, and all these things that are super painful. But I never knew what it was like to be helpless and hopeless, and to, have suicidal thoughts even, until I experienced what I experienced following that Monday. And it just changed everything about me. It changed how I understand what it means to be human. It showed me that there's a lot more to this than I thought there was. And it made me more empathetic and compassionate for the world around me and for people around me. And also it taught me one of the greatest lessons that I've ever learned from my therapist, who I call my expensive friend. She taught me to what it means to live a life that's not about me. And that concept just revolutionized my life and became the inspiration for Every Monday Matters and my books and everything that I do now.
I love how you say, when I say that my breakdown has changed my life for the better, what I really mean is that it has changed how I interact with people. And I'm wondering what exactly you mean by that. Do you mean that you've become a more empathetic person, or how has it changed you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've always been somebody who, I'm a people person. I love people. The thought of being alone by myself on a deserted island is like the most painful thing I could ever imagine. So I've always enjoyed people, but I don't know that I've ever, besides the story that we see on the outside and the information that we think we know about each other on the outside, which is largely just what people share with us, I never really thought about what might be going on the inside and behind what I'm seeing. And now I realize that at any given moment, I guess in some ways I used to judge people who talked about, for example, committing suicide. Like, well, how in the heck did you think about doing something like that? Like, that's crazy to me. until I actually had that thought. And I realized that, and on paper, my life looked incredible. And so anyone is, no one's immune to this mental health stuff. And so I'm sensitive to it. So if I'm in the elevator with you, I'm going to say hi. And how are you? How's your day? Oh, I like your jacket. And I just want to be that moment for people, whether it's 3 seconds or whether it's an hour-long lunch or whatever. I just want to be that moment for people where they actually feel seen and they feel like they matter because someone took the time to connect with them, because I don't truly know everything that's going on, behind what I'm seeing.
How did you start Every Monday Matters? And tell us more about what it is.
So Every Monday Matters started as a book. And so when my therapist, Denise, was talking to me about this idea of living a life that wasn't about me, which was pretty foreign, given I was a senior executive in the music industry, the most narcissist industry in the world. And when she said, I want to teach you what it means to live a life that's not about you, the way she taught me that was that every Saturday I had to go do something that wasn't about me. So go pick up litter, go feed homeless people, go paint over graffiti, go read the elderly, etc. And this weekly dose of doing something that's not about me is what honestly changed my life. And one day I was out picking up litter in Los Angeles, and I just noticed how peaceful I felt inside, and that this is what she meant by that. So that was the inspiration for my first book that I wrote 11 years ago, which was simply 52 things that people can do throughout the year to make the world a better place, to serve themselves, to serve other people. And it was just, I joked that it was like a toilet book or a tabletop book. You read it one Monday at a time, and had big pictures. It was really complicated. That book then became the inspiration for the organization, because so many people bought the book and they were emailing me and they were asking me for more. Hey, Matt, do you have school curriculum? Hey, Matt, can you help our company create a better culture? And so all of a sudden, all these kind of requests came in, and I realized that this book was something more. And so I decided to walk away from my 10-year career in the music industry to try to see where this would all go. And the first place that went really was into the education space. So we created a school curriculum that ended up going into 42 states across the country in 3 years, helping our youth understand this idea of self and social responsibility. And also now I had a team. We had office space. We were selling programs. And then, again, the companies came in and they wanted corporate engagement, so we started selling corporate engagement. And so 5 years later, after the book came out, I had a small for-profit company. We were doing a couple $1 million a year in sales. And then I was asked to go speak to a group of convicted felons in Northern California. And a judge was using my book with these convicts and asked if I would come meet them and speak to them, which I did. And, in walked in a room full of, convicted felons in handcuffs and ankle chains and waist chains and prison jumpsuits, and which I'd never seen before in real life, which was really tough to stomach. And she's like, okay, everybody, here's Matt. He wrote the book. So, Matt, why don't you go ahead and share? And I just didn't know what to say, but I just wanted to let them all know that they still mattered, even though they made mistakes, and maybe they're just part of a mistake or several mistakes that came before them, and they were just born into, a tough place. And so I told them that they mattered, and at the end of it, she let me give them all these You Matter wristbands that we have, and so I put them on 80 sets of handcuffed wrists, and at the end of that, one of the convicted felons, he said, no one's ever told me that I mattered my entire life. That's why I ended up where I am today. And he just started bawling on my shoulder. And it was in that moment that I realized, even though Every Monday Matters was doing great things in the world, it still wasn't right. Because, number one, I wasn't focused on the right thing. And number two, it was a for-profit company. And if my intention was to truly create a world where everybody knows how much and why they matter, I didn't want greed to be a part of any of that conversation. So 5 years ago, I converted the company to a nonprofit organization. And so today, I don't own it anymore. I work for the organization. We have a board, et cetera. And again, our mission is to create a world where everyone knows how much they matter. And, we launched a new school curriculum 5 years ago. We now serve over 2 million students nationwide and in 6 other countries. Our corporate program is on fire, helping companies create better work cultures because we know they need it and they know they need it. And I don't think it's a corporate social responsibility. I think it's an honor and a privilege, not responsibility, to serve those who work for you and serve you. And this year, we're going to pilot a program into the incarcerated system and also into senior living communities because our seniors in America do not feel like they matter anymore. And I don't think that's how anyone should leave this life. And so that is who we are. That little book 11 years ago created this thing that has touched millions and millions of lives. And now I'm just here to steer it along its way.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a minute after we tell you about our sponsor, Third Love Bras.
Do you find your bra gets uncomfortable at the end of the day? Are you often fidgeting with your bra straps because they've slipped off your shoulders, or maybe they're digging into your shoulders? Well, at Third Love, they feel the best bra is one you never have to think about. That's why they design bras to fit you perfectly with all-day comfort and support, straps that don't slip, and a smooth, scratch-free band.
Third Love has bras in over 80 sizes, which is twice the amount of most other brands. Just like 15 million other women, I took Third Love's Fit Finder quiz and answered a few simple questions to find my perfect size in just a minute. I appreciate how Third Love even offers half-cup sizes. In fact, they invented them. I love my Third Love bra because it's so comfortable and fits me just right.
I feel the same about my Third Love Racerback bra, and I think it's great that Third Love has a team of expert fit stylists available to help you via chat or email. Returns and exchanges are free and easy, and Third Love donates all of its returned bras to women in need.
Third Love knows there's a perfect bra for everyone, so right now they're offering our listeners 15% off their first order.
Go to thirdlove.com/NTM now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase.
That's thirdlove.com/NTM for 15% off today. One of the messages that I really took from the book that I just loved was that we don't need to start and make it overwhelming for ourselves in terms of helping the community. And, we have to volunteer every single day of the week and devote all these hours to it. It's really just about making everybody we interact with feel special. And that could be whoever is serving us each day or a family member. And I'm wondering what your ideas are for just making the everyday person we encounter with feel special and make them feel like we care about them.
Well, there's so many ways that we can impact each other. And I think first of all we have to embrace the fact that we are very powerful people. Our words, our thoughts, our actions, our tweets, they affect people because our words are powerful, and so once we own that, then we have to realize that we have a choice to make. And do we want to use that force for good, or do we want to use it to tear things down? And I think that's a decision that we all have to make for ourselves. And that's every single morning when we wake up. What am I going to be today? What's my intention today? And, if we had a world where 8 billion people woke up every morning with the idea and the intention that I'm going to serve somebody today, I think that we would have a vastly different world than we have right now. And that might be something that happens, a wave, a smile, a hug, opening a door. Everyone talks about random acts of kindness. I don't think they're random at all. I think they're because someone chose to be kind, and it's amazing. Or even, like I said earlier, taking the time to sit down with a friend or call somebody. Relationships matter, and I'm not talking about ones on social media. I'm talking about real relationships matter, and community matters. And we've slowly kind of bubbled ourselves off from what it means to be human and hiding behind these little safe walls that we've built. And it's time for us to kind of get back out and to every day when you leave the house to say hi to a neighbor. And we used to borrow flowers from each other. and eggs and things. And now it's like, don't you dare knock on my door, especially if it's dark out. And so
It's true.
it's true. We've gotten away from what it means to be in community and relationship and to be human. And I think that's why so many of us are struggling. And, isolation and loneliness now are becoming a bigger killer than heart disease. And it's time to pay attention to these things because we're off track.
You urge people to establish a be present buddy in their lives. What's that about?
Be present buddy. Yeah. Again, it's back to what I was just talking about, this idea of being present with each other. We are going faster and faster and faster. And I'm not here to be the anti-millennials by any means, Laura. But there is this, I'm 50, so I'm kind of somewhere stuck in between all of this. And as much as I do love technology, I also see how technology is hurting us. And being present with people. I was in Salt Lake City recently and at a restaurant, and the table next to me, there was like 8 people there, and they had all their cell phones on the table, and they were stacked like in a pyramid sort of thing on top of the table, and all facing down. And I asked them, I said, why do you guys have your phones like that? And they said, we have a bet that the first person, for whatever reason, who grabs their phone to look at it has to pay for the dinner.
I love that.
I just loved it. I'm like, thank you. Just sit there and be present with each other. A friend, one of the stories in my new book is about a gentleman I met. His name is David, and David is deaf. And I met him at Starbucks 3 years ago. I see him every morning. I saw him this morning as well. And David and I have developed a friendship. And he's deaf, and I'm not, and I don't know sign language. And David invited us to his 75th birthday party, where I actually gave a speech, and there was a translator there for that. But I got to sit there and watch about 50 deaf men and women sit around a long banquet table and might possibly have the most social experience I've ever seen in my life. Because there were no phones, because they need their hands to talk, and it was constant engagement and being present with each other, and it was incredible. And so the idea of having a present buddy is just a tool in case we need it to actually be more present with each other. And this is that person that if you have something going on and you just really need somebody there, that they've agreed to be that person for you, and that you've agreed to be that person for them when you just need somebody to just be there to listen and to help you through something.
Our Nobody Told Me interview continues in just a minute after we tell you about our sponsor, trustandwill.com, which features estate planning simplified. An estate plan outlines how you'd like to care for the things that are most important to you, like your kids, your pets, and your home.
Have you been procrastinating about finishing your will? Thanks to trustandwill.com, you can finish in just 10 minutes for all 50 states completely online. And they have people available to instantly answer any questions you might have.
Laura and I are a mother-daughter duo, and as you can imagine, I want to protect her and the rest of my family in case something bad and unexpected happens to me. I couldn't believe how easy the trustandwill.com website is to navigate. It walks you through the whole process, helping you decide what's best for you at whatever stage of life you're in.
Seriously, it's so easy. Do it for your family. Do it for your loved ones. Guardianships start at $39, wills at $69, and trusts at $399. Gain peace of mind by protecting your assets in your family.
Take 10% off by going to trustandwill.com/nobodytoldme or entering promo code NobodyToldMe at trustandwill.com.
Again, take 10% off by going to trustandwill.com/nobodytoldme or enter promo code NobodyToldMe at trustandwill.com. Do you think that it's harder for people to love themselves or to love and appreciate others?
Oh, I think it's much harder for people to love themselves. I do this thing, actually. It's kind of funny. When I'm doing keynotes, that same You Matter wristband that I gave to those convicts that day, I actually give to audiences, whether that's 1,000 people, 5,000 people, or 20 people. And I give them this wristband, and I tell them how much they matter. And then I tell them that actually that wristband's not for them, and which always gets an interesting look on their face. And I tell them they don't quite matter yet. And then I talk about this very thing that we talk about, being present, relationships, community. And I make them partner with somebody in the room and to tell that person how much and why they matter to them and what they appreciate about that person. And it's not stuff like you get your expense report in on time. It's like something about that person's heart and essence I want you to talk about. And at the end of it, they do this with each other, and they put the wristbands on, and there's this beautiful moment. There's always tears and emotion. It's very warm and sweet. And then I ask this question. I say, was it easier for you to say these things about your partner, or was it easier for you to hear them say them about yourself? And every single time, and I've done this with thousands and thousands of people, they say it's much easier to say than to hear. And so then, because we struggle with compliments, like someone says, hey, I like your jacket. And you're like, hey, I like your jacket too. But then you realize they're not even wearing a jacket, but you have to get this attention on yourself because it's so awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we do this thing where I hand out a piece of paper and I give them 1 minute to write down 5 things that they're good at. And I will tell you that a lot of people struggle to write down 5 things that they're good at. And then once they have their list, and some people might only get 1. I've had someone not write a single thing down.
Wow.
It's another story in the new book. And so then they have to stand up with their list, and I give them another minute, and they have to compliment themselves out loud on everything that they do well. And they have to say their first name before it. So it's like, Jan, you made a great dinner last night. Jan, you're a good mom. Jan, you're a great, and you have to go through this for a minute, complimenting yourself out loud, like while the whole room's doing this together. And the idea of that is because I want people to be able to accept compliments. I want them to check their self-talk, to stop picking on themselves, to stop this idea of always seeking perfection and just say, you know what, I'm already perfect. In all my imperfections, I'm still perfect. And we have to learn how to love ourselves more. And, a lot of people say that, I have to learn how to love myself before I can love somebody else. I don't necessarily believe that's the only case. I also believe that through loving other people, we can learn to love ourselves. For me, it was living a life that wasn't about me and serving others that I finally found myself. It wasn't that I found myself and then I went and did that. But yes, we struggle with being kind to ourselves, with receiving compliments. And I think, ultimately that does ripple out and affect all of our relationships and how people can relate to us as well.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a minute after we talk about one of our favorite subjects, the moon. Did you know that day or night, everyone is born under the moon?
Astrologers believe that just like the position of the sun and the stars on the day you were born affects your personality, so too does the moon phase you were born under.
It's called your lunar personality. Your moon phase may give insight as to why you're either practical and grounded or more intuitive and creative. For instance, those born under a new moon are said to be great innovators,
whereas those born under a full moon may be more extroverted. If this sounds like fun to explore, check out moonglow.com, where you can enter your birth date to discover your lunar personality.
Moonglow creates personal jewelry featuring your unique moon. Each design incorporates their personalized moon phase charms. And it's not just birth moons. Maybe you want to discover your anniversary moon or the moon from any date that is most meaningful to you.
Whichever special date you want to remember, visit moonglow.com today to find your moon.
And remember to enter promo code Nobody Told Me for 15% off your first Moonglow. Your unique moon phase and lunar personality awaits. You tell people to ask what it is that holds them back from being their true and authentic self. Tell us more about that and what you should do after you answer that.
I think there's a lot that holds us back from being our true authentic selves, for sure. And I think this starts, I'm not a psychologist, but I guess I am by proxy after 10 years of therapy. But I think it starts when we're little, and we come into this world, and I tell people, like, I didn't choose to be born. It wasn't like one day Matt said, "Hey, Mom, get pregnant and have me." but one day I showed up in this world, and then I spent the rest of my life trying to make sense of it. And what is this thing called life? And what does it mean to be human? And at first, when we're kids, we're just, we sleep and we eat and we poop and everything's great. But as you go through, especially like those middle school years, I wish they could just get rid of 7th and 8th grade altogether.
Me too.
You start going through these phases in your life and hormonal changes, and then rejection, and there's this competition to perform. And I'll tell you right now, in our schools today, the pressure to compete and to succeed is so great. Even up there in the Bay Area, like Pali High School, right by Stanford, they're having tremendous suicide issues up there. And because if those kids don't get into a Stanford, for example, then they're a failure. And so we go through this life and we get bumps and bruises, and I believe that we kind of slowly build these walls around us. And we start to guard our heart because we've been hurt before. And the more we guard, the less authentic we become. And then we have, again, our phones and our social media where I can always play my highlight reels and see this vision of that I want people to see of me. And before we know it, we are isolated and we're depressed and we're not living our authentic self because we're afraid to put the truth out there. We're afraid to be heard again. We're afraid of judgment. Everybody is a critic these days, and we're afraid to get judged by people. The sad part, though, to me, is that if we can't live our authentic self, then who are we? It's like I'm playing a character of myself my whole life, which is so sad to me. And also, there's no way to build real, genuine, authentic relationships if you're not being your authentic self, because that person is relating to somebody who's not actually you. Mm-hmm. And it's a complete, failure of being able to have healthy relationships in our life. And so we just have to have the courage to put ourselves out there, and I know for me, I struggled too. Like, I always felt like a square peg in a round hole. Like, even when I was in kindergarten, the first day I wore yellow and green Pumas to my first day of kindergarten, and everyone made fun of my shoes. I never really truly fit in, but I always wanted to fit in because I wanted to please people and I wanted to make people proud. But the more I just started understanding and embracing, like, I'm just me, and thank God I'm just me. And you know what? Thank God you're just you. And thank God none of us are exactly the same. And we can all embrace each other instead of, like, seeing like we're just this one big island of misfit toys, like from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoon, that if we just all be ourselves and celebrate that, then the world's a beautiful fabric of humanity, in all the good, the bad, the ugly of that. But at least we get to see, all that color, instead of us kind of just all wanting to be the same and to fit in and to live in these little bubbles on our own little private islands. And it gets to be just nothing like I would imagine, like what humanity is supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so many people who try and live their own lives and act like they're trying to be their own person, but at the same time, they're comparing themselves to other people who are at their stage of life and seem to have more, especially when you look at social media and somebody's getting a promotion, somebody's having a kid, somebody's getting married, and it's just really hard. What advice would you have to just have people accept themselves and not worry about where everybody else is at?
Yeah, I get it. It is really hard, and I'm not an expert at it either. I don't do a ton of social media, which is much of the displeasure of my publishers. And a lot of people who think I should be building my brand more. But so I don't get on there very much. And I think it just comes down to people really need to get clear on like what does matter most to them. And if someone's opinion of you is what matters most to you, then you're not living from the right place. And get clear on your priorities. If family matters, if friendships matter, if volunteering matters, if being healthy emotionally, physically, spiritually matters, just put your energy into those things that matter most to you. And when you start to live a life like that, you get so empowered and aligned and inspired. In a lot of ways, the other stuff that's happening around you kind of just becomes, you become deaf to it. Like it just doesn't even fit to you because your life is now about something much bigger and much more important than what someone might say to you on social media or compare to you. And, I now celebrate my friends, but it wasn't like that from the beginning. When I finished business school and I decided to go into the music industry, my first couple of years were rough. I mean, I was managing bands, and my friends from business school were making $300,000 a year and buying houses in Pasadena and having kids and dogs. And here I was like booking shows at the Viper Room and the Whiskey. And I'm like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? Because they're thriving and I'm a disaster. But that's not the case at all. I actually made the perfect choice for my life because it's exactly the path I was meant to go down. And I know that now because I went down that path. And so I have nothing to question. And now I'm here today, and I've written 3 books, and I run a nonprofit organization that is inspiring people and changing lives. And I couldn't be more grateful and still excited for all these people as well. But I had to stop comparing. And the other big thing, too, that I will tell people as well is we're such control freaks that I had it in my mind that I knew exactly how my life was supposed to unfold, from going to college, to going to grad school, to getting married, to having kids, to being a millionaire, to, I had the whole story written. Mm-hmm. and it was an awesome story. And you know what? It could not have unfolded any differently than how I wrote it. Mm-hmm. And the sooner that I embraced that, accepted that there might be some bigger forces out there in the world. Of course, I still need to show up every day and be my best every day. But, Matt, maybe you're not going to get married at 28 and have 3 kids by 31 and be promoted by 30. This is a story I had for my life. I ended up getting married at 43, and wow. My story told me I was getting married at 28. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times that's what can help you stop comparing too. Just trust that there is a story for your life that might not look like anyone else's life or any of your peers. And just be excited about what that journey is going to look like.
Matt, our show is called Nobody Told Me, and we always ask our guests, what is your Nobody Told Me lesson? So what is it that nobody told you about life, or the things that are important to life, or learning to love who you really are, that you kind of wish someone had told you about and it might have made it a little easier for you?
By the way, I love the name of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's so good. And in the new book, in the beginning of it, I talk about that, and I think I'm describing a narrative that maybe someone might have going through their mind if they're struggling, right? And Laura, I read a little bit about your bio as well, and it seems that maybe you dealt with a little bit of this too, and I appreciate you sharing that authentically mm-hmm. as well. Nobody ever told me that life might get hard. Mm-hmm. No one ever said it. And I'm so grateful for my family. We live in a, I guess, upper middle class, family in Modesto, California is where I grew up. And my dad worked hard for Gallo Wine. He did travel a lot for work, but again, we were never for a lack. We certainly weren't the biggest house in Modesto, but we also were never lacking. And I think that maybe I don't want to say that I was over coddled, because that is judging what my parents did, and I think that they're the most incredible parents in the world. But I don't think I was fully understanding of what this all life could look like. And I don't know that there's really a way that you could even explain that to somebody, because life is so dynamic. But I didn't know about a lot of things that I wish I had known about. And I also, and maybe this is just being a guy, I don't know, but like, if you fall down, just get back up.
Mm-hmm.
Get back on the horse, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I don't know that that's necessarily the best advice all the time. I think it's like, you know what? Feel it first. And it might not feel good, but get to know that feeling and the emotions of it and process it, and then get back on the horse. But don't just kind of shrug stuff off. Again, that might be more of a male thing than a female thing, but I don't think that I never was told also to really how to process my emotions. And so life is going to get hard, but you still have to process it in a healthy way, and before you kind of move forward. I think those are the biggest things for me.
Oh, I love that. And we really want people to check out the book, because it has a permanent place on my bookshelf. It's just amazing. So how can people learn more about that, and how can they connect with you?
Absolutely. So, the new book, You Matter, Learning to Love Who You Really Are, it's everywhere books are sold, and it just came out last week, and I'm so excited. Obviously the nonprofit, everymondaymatters.org. I have a website, MatthewEmerzian.com. We also launched a new website in conjunction with the book, which is imatterbecause.com. And the whole goal of the book is to help the reader at the end of the book to be able to answer the question that if someone came up to you and said, "Why do you matter?" that they could answer that question. So there's this kind of wrap-up activity where there's a statement that says, "My name is, and I matter because," and I ask the reader to fill in those blanks. And on imatterbecause.com, they can post their picture and their statement, and then we're creating this fabric of humanity who have all shared their I matter because statements. And
wow. I love that.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And the last thing I want to say, too, about this new book is part of the reason why I'm so excited about it is that I believe that all of our stories matter. And, of course, my story gets a lot of attention, with the nonprofit and with the books. And, I do the Today Show and these, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what I love so much about this new book is that for the first time, I got to share the stories of so many incredible people that I've met along this journey. And I believe their stories are going to touch people. They're going to make you laugh, make you cry. But it's just really beautiful for me to kind of share that limelight also with other people I've met along this journey and the lessons that they've taught me. And I think that the lessons that they'll also teach, the reader of the book. There's some pretty powerful stuff and stories that I think the readers are going to really enjoy.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. We love the book. Absolutely love it. And thank you. Thank you, Matt, so much for joining us. This has been really enlightening and insightful and a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, you too, and keep it going. And I'm honored to be a part of your podcast, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. Again, our thanks to Matthew Emerzian, whose latest book is called You Matter, Learning to Love Who You Really Are. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
You're listening to Nobody Told Me. Thank you so much for joining us.